California Senate candidate Steve Garvey, he calls the student protesters terrorists. When I first heard the term terrorists applied to the protesters, probably back in 2019, 2020, in a summer of love era, I was like, are they terrorists? And then I attended a few of the actual protests. Yes, they are. Let's get into it. Here we go. Today, we're launching the largest giveaway this channel has ever offered. All thanks to the sponsor of this video, Vanish Holsters. Many of you know I often find myself in some pretty hairy situations, whether it's covering events in places like the Chop Zone in Seattle amidst mostly peaceful protests, or navigating through precarious homeless encampments. I've had my concealed weapons permit for several years, but my biggest hurdle to overcome has been I don't want to carry one more piece of awkward gear while I'm trying to film in a dangerous situation. But that all changed when I discovered the Vanish Daily Carry Holster. This isn't just any holster. It's my personal protection solution and today's video sponsor. The thing I like about it is that it's super comfortable, yet still discreet. It only weighs like 6 ounces, but it's made of super durable Cordura material that won't chafe against your skin. Put it on and forget about it until you need it. It works for 99% of all semi-auto pistols in the market, and it can be set up in multiple positions for both right-hand and left-handers. It's got a non-penetrable trigger guard and 2 utility or magazine pouches. Throw it on under a loose t-shirt and nobody knows it's there but you. And with a 100% money-back guarantee, there's zero risk if you don't think it's a great daily carry solution. So all you have to do is click in the link in the description below and get yourself the most comfortable holster you've ever worn. And Vanish Holsters is hooking you up. They're going to knock off $50 off the retail price for anyone who buys using my special link below. And here's that huge giveaway I was talking about. And Vanish Holsters is giving away this $80,000 custom Rocky Ridge Silverado truck for free to one lucky American who buys one of these amazing holsters through June 3rd. Don't miss out. Buy a holster today. All right. Here we go. Here's our guy. Here's Steve. He's a heck of a baseball player. Republican Senate candidate Steve Garvey, he delivered sharp words Thursday about college students protesting the Israel-Hamas war, repeatedly calling them terrorists and urging university leaders and law enforcement to take action. 100% agreed. You guys seen any of the videos on this? We want them to divest from Israel. Just a bunch of nonsense. It's literally like they're spewing words that they've read on some press release. Hey guys, or some TikTok. Yeah, there's a TikTok, and we're supposed to say divest from Israel, and do all this other stuff. And you're like, you're a moron. These kids, and some of them are not kids. These are professional agitators. They're Antifa, right? And the best example you can see that these are not college students organizing all this. There's going to be some that are, but the real organizing and the real security and all of that takes place by these professional agitators. And down in Atlanta, I forget what school it was in Atlanta, but they literally brought some of their Stop Cop City antics and signs and whatnot. You've got the bongo drums. Oh yeah, you can hear that in the background because that'll make you insane after listening to that for a full day. And, you got people and they're all masked up, right? Anytime you see somebody with a mask, just identify them as a loser. Identify them as a loser, Antifa wannabe or whatnot. Now we want to protest. We want to make a statement, but we don't want anybody to know who we are. And you're like, you're a loser. You are a loser. I think it was Trump who called them domestic terrorists, called Black Lives Matter domestic terrorists. Now, people want to say that Black Lives Matter got hijacked by Antifa, but it's like, okay, yeah, when I was there at a bunch of those, mostly peaceful protests, both groups were in there. But Antifa they are the real agitators, and they're losers. I mean, they're just loser. Because and this whole deal with Israel just shows what losers they are. Hey guys, you're 6,000 plus miles away from the scene of the action. They're not listening to you. Nobody cares. Yeah, go back to your mom's basement. What they're saying is that they're pro-Hamas, Steve Garvey said at a press conference in Los Angeles, standing in front of Israeli flags. They're pro-terrorists. They're supporting terrorism. Yeah, 100% true. And then the acts that they do, the stuff that they do, they basically take over college campuses, put a bunch of tents up. Kids that are Jewish are like, I'm not going to school there. I was watching a video last night. I watched just a whole series because I haven't really followed this. It's so ridiculous. I don't want to give much more coverage to this ridiculousness, which is we're pro-Hamas and we're anti-Israel and we don't like the Jews. I mean, that whole notion to me is just like, that's not good. And letting this happen on college campuses, how do you think those Jewish kids feel? I mean, seriously, right? And then you've got big donors going, I'm not going to support that school. I'm pulling my money out of there. You're hearing about a lot of that. And then you're also hearing about, the president of Colombia should be asked to step down because they're not condemning this. They are in bed with these terrorists, with these domestic terrorists, because they're allowing them to just do their thing. The remarks from Garvey, the former Los Angeles Dodgers baseball star, running against Democratic Republican Adam Schiff, who just got his bag stolen from his rental car in a hotel as he was going to a fundraiser. Check out that podcast on this channel. So Adam Schiff doesn't understand the term bipping in San Francisco because he's from Burbank, and maybe he didn't get the memo that your stuff's going to get jacked if you leave it in your car. Anyway, Adam Schiff for the late Dianne Feinstein's Senate seat. He's running for that. He's trying to get a little money. Comes a day after police arrested hundreds of students around the country for protesting the war, including in Los Angeles. Yeah, in LA, you had USC and then you had UCLA. One's a private school, USC and UCLA. Yeah, I think it was it USC that they cleared them out of? I might have that backwards, but they went in, the authorities, the cops did work. They did work. I saw one where maybe you've seen this, a pretty well-built cop he's running after one of these domestic terrorists and just tackles him. I think it was a gal and just dropped her. I mean, that guy played football. I don't care what you say. He did. And he was like, here I go again. Glory days. Boom, 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 and just drops a protester. Bunch of people around with signs. Don't hurt her. Don't hurt her. It's like, yeah, go home, you loser. Go home to your mom's basement. The University of Southern California officials arrived in riot gear on Wednesday night it was USC, to remove protesters who had set up an encampment at the center of campus, arresting 93 and leading them away with their hands in zip ties. Good. I hope they made them cool their jets overnight in jail. Yeah. Similar scenes have played out this week on the campuses of Columbia University and University of Texas at Austin. At the University of California at Berkeley, protesters are engaged in their fourth day of a sit-in protest. What a bunch of losers. I mean, seriously. I'm just going to go to a sit-in. I'm going to go to a sit-in and I'm really going to activate change for something happening 6,000 miles away, something I don't really understand. But hey, divest from Israel. Divest. Yeah. What does that even mean? Right? I mean, I know what it means. You know what it means. But to these people, all right, so you want them to not buy stuff from Israel or any of its business partners. You want to, you're trying to, they're not listening. They don't care. They're not listening to you. They're just going to keep bombing Hamas until they get their way. And the loser domestic terrorists, they're demanding the university sever ties with Israeli institutions and financially divest from companies that are supporting Israel. Most of these schools are not heavily intertwined with Israel or from companies that are supporting Israel. Most of the statements I've seen, they have very little involvement, and it's just not a thing. So this is a bunch of loser kids virtue signaling what they think is the moment of the day, the cause of the day, because all of a sudden Black Lives Matter does not matter. It doesn't matter. It's not even on. Have you heard that? Take to the streets, F the police, no justice, no peace. Have you heard that for a long time? No, you haven't, except maybe on here, because it's ridiculous. It's absurd, right? F the police? Yeah. All right. But when something bad happens to you, professional protesters, when something bad happens to you, professional agitators and professional domestic terrorists that are losers, you call 911. And we know that to be true because we saw that firsthand in Seattle when somebody ran over you and you were playing grab ass at a Black Lives Matter demonstration on Interstate 5. What'd you do? You called 911. Come get us. We're hurt. We're bleeding. Yeah. Well, that's because you were playing grab ass on the freeway and you got caught in a car, which should be there. You pedestrians should not. Yeah, that happened. Garvey, flanked by an Israeli special operations veteran and a rabbi, accused the protests of being terrorism disguised as free speech. 100% agreed. 100% agreed. And if you followed any of the footage, you will see basically Antifa in there, and they won't let other people in, including news crews. They'll just, oh no, we got something going on. What makes them, who gave them the power and authority to let people in or not let people in? No, it's it's the presidents of these universities that are like, it's free speech. They're caught in kind of that rock and a hard place where they want to encourage free speech. But then, you get these groups in there and they're posting up with tents. They're literally doing encampments. I'm going to protest for a long time. Now that goes against, campus policy, right? Could you imagine if the Proud Boys did this? And I'm just throwing out Proud Boys as being the opposite from far left, on the right. Imagine if the Proud Boys came in. We got to protest this. How do you think that'd go down? It wouldn't. It wouldn't, because these universities are just such trash that this is what they're allowing. I mean, what a waste! What a waste of $50,000, $60,000, $75,000 a year in education. I mean, what are you being taught at these institutions? I'm not a fan. And he said that the students are making a statement that they probably don't really understand what it's about. 100% agree. Like if you ask them beyond the bullet points what they're talking about, do you think they'd actually be able to have a conversation with you? Most of these people can't have a conversation with somebody else who is just saying, hey, let's have a conversation. They can't because, they got their masks on and they're all fearful and they're all afraid. And, somebody might look at them sideways or misgender them. And good Lord, we wouldn't want that. Yeah. Talk about lack of transparency. Hiding behind a mask. That is the epitome of lack of transparency. This is organized support of terrorism, he said. Agreed. 100% agreed. Adding that he believes in free speech, but arguing that interrupting classes and obstructing the opportunity to learn is terrorism. I would also throw in there that, scaring the Jewish kids off. They got to work from home. They're going to go to a hybrid deal. Not all the schools are closing down, but they are going to hybrid, meaning one reporter I saw from the New York Post who was a student at Columbia, she said that out of a class of 20 students, like 3 of them who were Jewish or she thought were probably Jewish, decided to take the hybrid option. Sometimes they'll be in class, but if they don't feel comfortable, they'll zoom in to their class. They're making that a thing. But the other 17, they just attended like it was normal. And, you got a bunch of Looney Tunes walking around the campus, putting their tents out and basically disrupting everything. That to me is terrorism. It goes way past standing on a public sidewalk, holding your sign that says divest from Israel. Don't really know what it means, but that's what we're doing here. California Governor Gavin Newsom said at a separate press conference Thursday that his team is very mindful. Here's some political doublespeak. We're very mindful of what's going on in the campuses, and we want to maintain people's rights and protest, and at the same time, do so peacefully without any hate. All right. Well, I would agree with that until that last statement. And I'm not Jewish. I have plenty of Jewish friends. I can name a dozen off the top of my head that I know really well. And I'm like, oh, that stuff is just, that doesn't help anybody out, does it? And they're like, no. Without any hate. How about that whole from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free? That's a regular chant, isn't it? From the river to the sea. And that basically indicates, yeah, where's Israel and all that? Oh, they're gone. Okay. So you want to destroy all of Israel, push them out, annihilate them, but do so without any hate. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Now that doesn't make any sense at all, does it? That makes zero sense. So this whole notion of peacefully protest without any hate, and if you've heard the chants, I mean, they're wildly violent, just like the one I talked to you about with Black Lives Matter. Take to the streets, F the police. And it wasn't F the police, right? It was the F-bomb. Without any hate, when you tell a group to F off, that kind of crosses that line of dislike to hate. Yeah, it does. I really dislike you. F off. No, right? I hate your guts. Go F yourself. Yeah. But anyway, without any hate, yeah, we're gonna accept this. I think some of these protests are going to get pretty wild. Get this one. Well, we're going to continue on this one. Here's Washington, University of Washington, my old school. I didn't graduate from there. I'm glad I didn't. Screw that school. UW students postpone anti-Semitic encampment for having too many white saviors. They weren't diverse enough. They looked around and they went, it's all white dudes here. We need more people of color. We need more Muslims. We need more Arabs. Where are they? Why is it all a bunch of virtue signaling white people that are coming to this University of Washington protest? All right, guys, we can't have this look. This is a terrible look. We need some diversity up here in this biatch. So before we go out and have one of these, really successful Seattle-style protests, got to get some more people of color in here. That's literally another storyline. I think I'm going to read that for the private channel. That's a good one. That's reasonabletv.com. That's so brutal. So the protests come as the war drags into its 7 months since Hamas' October 7th attack on Israel killed some 1,200 people. And as the death toll in Gaza amid Israel's retaliation surpasses 34,000 people, according to local health officials. And how much longer is that war going to go on? How much longer is that going to go on? And then what I've thought about is, okay, that war will get settled. It'll simmer down. What's the next big thing? What are these agitators going to glom onto? Because remember, they had a couple of years in between the whole Black Lives Matter protests and what we've got going on now. And I was at the first couple of protests. You can check those out on this channel if you want to. But, it's a bunch of people with signs going, and you're like, okay, whatever. The war in Gaza has been a growing source of tension among California Democrats, with establishment moderates largely defending Israel's actions, while progressives call for taking a harsher approach towards the United States' longtime ally Israel. You got a bunch of nut job left-wingers, just far left people, far left agitators, and they'll glom on to any cause that comes down the pikeway, right? They just do. They're like, protest. Let's do a sit-in. Let's have a direct action event, right? And they bring their speakers and their bongo drums, and they have a sit-in, and they don't shower for days and weeks, and they smell real bad. So both politicians and college leaders have meanwhile also raised concerns about growing instances of anti-Semitism on campuses where Jewish students have been targeted and harassed. Yeah, how does, this freedom of speech, but it's hate speech, how is that allowed? How is that not condemned? And I think that's what Steve Garvey's talking about. He's like, these people are terrorists. Yep, agreed, 100%, agreed. So I think we should treat terrorists appropriately, right? I don't know what that means, but yeah. How about not letting a encampment be started? What about that? How about that? Nope, guys, it's a no-go. You want to stand on the sidewalk and do your sign thing? That's fine. But at the end of the day, you got to go home. And no, you can't camp here. No, you can't camp here because, you can't camp here. Nobody can camp here. It's a school. It's a university. And it makes people uncomfortable when you're out getting out of your tent, brushing your teeth in the morning and spitting on the school lawn. Yeah. So the war was particularly contentious, dividing line between the three Democrats in the primary race for the Senate, with Adam Schiff taking a more moderate approach compared to more progressive Democrats, expressing support for Israel, while also saying the United States should hold its ally to a high standard. A high standard of bombing terrorists? I'm okay with that. I'm all right with that. Israel's doing work. They're doing work. And yeah, some civilians have been taken out. But I kind of blame Hamas on that. When you hide a whole bunch of civilians, at the hospital, it's going to be bombed because you got Hamas leadership there. So I think what's going to happen is you're going to see, I feel like these protests, the big schools and universities, it's really coming to a head. And if UW does get their act together, if they get a more diverse crowd of professional agitators, I'll go over there and see what's going on. I'll chase behind Jonathan Cho and see what he's got going on. But he's so well known now that everybody said, there's Jonathan Cho, hate that guy. Let's get out our umbrella. And they don't want you to see anything, right? They don't want you to film anything. How come? Masks, don't film. Hey, it's a public university. We can do whatever we want. Yeah, taxpayer money pays this. So, go after yourself. That's what we're doing. It's crazy, isn't it? But a lot of these schools, they are just, Israel's the oppressor and Hamas is the greatest thing since sliced bread. We had that little October 7th thing, but it was justified. And you're like, what? What are you talking about? Terrorists. That's what they are. Let's treat them accordingly. Let's see some more arrests. Let's see some of these people thrown in jail. Let's see if UW gets their act together. Will they? Who knows? It's Seattle. It's Freatle. Crazy stuff going on. All right, that's it for me on this one. Thanks so much for being here. I'll catch up with you in the next one. Bye for now.